Let's talk about skills versus behaviors in virtual reality, because this is a key distinction that you need to understand in order to create training content that really works. So, what's a skill? A skill is something you can do. So, that's fixing a part at a data center, operating within a legal framework, using a piece of medical equipment, right? That's something that is hands on, tangible, learnable. What's a behavior? Behavior is something like paying attention, having empathy, understanding other people's points of view, right? So they're two very different things. But the place people go wrong is training for a skill when they really should be training for behavior. So I'll give you an example. Last year, a company came to me and said, we need to do forklift training in virtual reality. And I thought, that's great. That's pretty easy to do. I can definitely help you with that. But then I wanted to focus on, okay, what exactly in this forklift training needs to happen? Where is sort of the disconnect? And so when I started talking to the drivers and doing some research and digging, what I found was this. The actual forklift part of the equation was fine. All the drivers knew how to use the forklift and knew how to use it correctly. What had happened was, in the past year, the warehouses had been moved and redesigned such that they were a lot smaller and narrower, and there were a lot more hazards present. So the drivers actually didn't need to learn anything about forklifts. They needed to learn about paying attention and anticipating hazards. So that was the training that we built. It had nothing to do with forklifts. And that's the really key distinction, because if they just rolled out a generic forklift training in VR, nothing would have happened, nothing would have changed, and they would have been really dissatisfied and probably thought, oh, VR doesn't work. It was a waste of our time and money. But that's not the case. The case is they just would have trained for the wrong skill set. So you really need to dig in and understand. Now, you can train for both. For instance, if people were having an issue using the forklift's new levers in a crowded environment, that's fine. You could definitely train for both in the same piece, but you really need to understand what it is you're training for and build your training around that. These are just really the questions you really need to dig into right when you're starting. So definitely as you start your training, definitely start your planning, make sure you think about skills versus behaviors because it's critical to the success of any piece.